I stomped down 3 flights of stairs, cursing the broken elevator. My hands barely managed the 5 bags of groceries, and at this moment, I'd gladly strangle the landlord or my boyfriend and his friends. The choice was open. I was doubly angry because I'd called for help, and Alex didn't answer. I had a damn good idea why. Pushing open the door to our apartment, I flinched at the loud sound from the TV. The guys were engrossed in the pre-match celebrations, chatting away. No wonder no one heard my plea for help. As I hobbled into the kitchen, I discovered the counter littered with spoiled food from the fridge. There was no place for the bags, so I threw the groceries on the floor. Opening the fridge, I found what I expected: 10 dozen bottles of beer, or what was left of them. Counting the beer wasn't hard. Empty boxes were carelessly tossed on the kitchen table, and empty bottles occupied another part of the counter. My pent-up rage burst out. I walked to the closet and opened the door. The electrical panel was right inside. With a feeling of deep satisfaction, I turned off the main switch. The TV and lights suddenly went out. The screams in the living room turned to dead silence as the men realized that the television was gone. They just started about the disappearance of the game. I burst into the living room, and their attention was immediately drawn to the tension in my body and my beet-red face. In the sudden silence, you could hear a pin drop. I couldn't resist and shouted at them, "I just spent an hour at the store using my own money to buy 5 bags of groceries for your game today, only for no one to answer the phone or come down to help me." I had to carry all 5 bags up the stairs myself because the elevator didn't work. To top it all off, I discovered our refrigerator was stocked with your beer, and the food I had to pay my hard-earned money for was sitting on the counter spoiling. You are so noisy here that I'm surprised that none of our neighbors have yet come to us with a complaint. I took a deep breath. You're acting like a bunch of spoiled children, not like adults. Get off your asses and go to the kitchen, clean it up, put the food back where it belongs, and get your damn beer out of my refrigerator. If you need it cold, go to the store and buy ice, get a cooler, and freeze your beer in it. You can turn on the power and watch the game, but if the noise gets out of control again, I'll kick you all out. All clear?" They sat there looking at me in shock. "Move!" I shouted, stamping my foot, and was pleased to see them scatter. Still angry, I headed to the bathroom and began drawing a bath, pouring bath salts into it. I needed some way to relax after all this. In my opinion, the guys were clearly uncontrollable. And considering that they were all already over 28 and approaching 35, this did not suit me. It wasn't that they were terrible people. On the contrary, I liked Alex's friends, but sometimes they behaved as if the world did not exist except for them and what captured their fleeting attention. Games served as an example of this. If they weren't yelling at the referee, they were yelling at the coach or the idiot player who had just committed a foul. In between, they insulted each other and anyone who disagreed with their opinions. At least they didn't all live in houses yet, but they all had roommates, so they liked to hang out at Alex and my place. A quiet knock on the door interrupted my bathing. "Yes," I replied. "I brought you a glass of wine, honey. Can I come in?" "Certainly," I said. He sat down on the toilet, handed me a glass, and waited for me to take a sip. We talked, and the guys apologized. "You're right, we all behaved badly, and we want to apologize." The warm, aromatic water calmed me down considerably. "Okay, let's leave all this. Just try to stay reasonable." "Well, try, and they swear that they will treat you better in the future." "That's good to hear," I told him, but suspicion raged in my soul. Trust but verify, what did that mean? I had no idea. I needed to think things through carefully. Alex and Ryan weren't bad, but the other 4... The thought of having a whip in my hands and giving them a good beating made me smile. This, of course, reflected my current mood. They needed fixing. How could I pacify them in their bachelor ways, I wondered, taking another sip of wine? I decided to put the matter aside and enjoy my bath. As I sank into the water, I exhaled my frustration and relaxed. The alcohol penetrated my bloodstream, and I felt my muscles relax. I found her again, having freshened up and dressed. I decided to make peace. Heading to the kitchen, I put their treats in the oven while I put the snacks into bowls and brought everyone fresh beer from the cooler on the deck. When I walked in with beer and snacks, I was greeted with cheers. Soon I was chatting with Ryan while they all watched the commentators during the break of the match. Until the end of the game, everything was relatively calm. The guys behaved with restraint and tried not to make noise. In turn, I made sure no one ran out of beer, getting a fresh bottle into their hands by the time they took their last sip. It was a happy bunch that left. Alex and his friends thanked me for their hospitality and promised to bring something other than beer next time. Each of them apologized and promised to behave better in the future. Although I considered this a victory, I knew it wouldn't take long for them to fall back into old habits. If only they had girlfriends who could cuddle them, they didn't act like savages when women were around. No, they immediately calmed down. I stopped at this thought. Was it my decision to marry them all? They were all bachelors except Alex, my boyfriend. How could I set up so many guys with girls? It wasn't like they didn't know most of my friends, so any introductions were bound to happen. No, they needed new women. Women who wouldn't know how immature they are. The only exception was Ryan. Others could learn from him. The next game was Saturday night, and I was confident they would be back. They arrived on Saturday and behaved like complete gentlemen. They poured their own beer and prepared their own snacks. They served me from head to toe. I could get used to this. I grinned as I watched them. Inspiration struck me when I saw Josh take out his phone to answer a text while playing. They all knew other girls they may have wanted to ask out but didn't dare. They talked all the time about how this or that girl was and dreamed of dating her. They just didn't have the courage to make it happen. I could cheer them up. No, I could kick their asses. Make it a challenge for them. They'll sort it out at their next game on Tuesday night. After kissing everyone on the cheek as a sign of gratitude, I told them to come half an hour early on Tuesday for a special moment. Of course, they asked why. I just smiled mysteriously. It's a secret, but you'll like it, I said, smiling sweetly and lying through my teeth. I spent the rest of the week thinking carefully about this idea and came up with some strict rules. No available girls with cliches. It had to be a quality woman whom they lusted after but felt was too much for them. I couldn't wait to see the look on their faces on Tuesday night. Of course, I didn't let Alex know what was in store for his friends. It was time to tame these guys and prepare future husbands from them. God knows it took forever with Alex. 5 future wives could thank me later. Tuesday morning dawned clear and cloudless. Sitting at the kitchen table and looking out the window, I picked up a cup of steaming coffee with a smile of anticipation. Today's game was supposed to mark a new dawn in their lives. My plans would come true, and these wayward children would have a new paradigm. I couldn't wait to see the expressions on their faces. Alex staggered out of the bedroom looking shabby and hungover. Last night he went out to the bar with them. He poured himself some coffee, drank half of it in the first sip, then filled his cup and sat down. He handed me the envelope. "What is this?" "The guys chipped in and bought you a spa day. There's a certificate for a massage, steam bath, body wrap, pedicure, and manicure." "They're terrified of tonight," he admitted with a grin. This pissed me off. It would be better if they were afraid. Did they really think they could bribe me, sweeten me up with a few trinkets? Okay, maybe I can be bribed a little, but it won't save their collective asses. The spa afterward will be a pleasant retreat to enjoy my victory. They all looked very nervous, clutching their beer, trying to gauge my mood. I thought I gave them a sweet buttermelt and mouth smile, belying the screwed look in my eyes. "So, guys, I was thinking about last week. I appreciate what you did to get yourself in order. However, in reality, your behavior resembles that of a bunch of uncontrollable chimpanzees." Everyone looked at each other awkwardly. It was difficult to deny this truth. I had some thoughts about this. This doesn't happen when you have women around. In fact, you become attentive, polite, and responsive. The lewd words disappear. We need to work on this. Neither of you are dating. I want to fix this. These games would be a lot more fun for everyone if more girls participated. Heads nodded. She was right. "So, Josh, You were talking about a girl you were planning to ask out. How's it going? He blushed. Honestly, Emily, she's too tough for me. She is so beautiful. Every time I see her, I get tongue-tied. I'm afraid to even try to ask her out. What about the rest? Do you all have a girlfriend like this? Heads nodded. I handed out sheets of paper. Write the name of a girl you admire from afar but are afraid to ask out. Write your name on the other side and place them in this container. With that done, I grabbed my purse and pulled out the $600 in cash I had received earlier. I'm putting $600 on the line. Each of you will also pay $600. Tomorrow afternoon, just after lunch, you will come here and make phone calls. Bring your money. Each of you will call that girl you are so afraid to date and invite her to the game on Friday night. We will all be here to support you. I will even get in touch and ensure that she will be here with other girls. This is a good, safe date invitation to start with. If you all contribute, the pot will be $3,600. Whoever gets 10 dates with the intended girl first gets half. Everyone else who reaches 10 dates within 30 days will split the remaining amount. If no one wins, I get everything. Payment for putting up with your antics. Heads nodded, looking excited. I wondered if they would be as excited tomorrow when they had to dial the number. I suspected not. One more rule, guys. This is an ironclad rule. You don't take no for an answer. No matter what, you keep asking until she says yes or hangs up. Got it? The heads in the circle nodded again. As I predicted, they all showed up on Wednesday afternoon looking a little scared. It's one thing to boldly talk about something after a few glasses of beer, but another thing when you're faced with reality. Everyone chipped in $600. The container was full. Okay, Josh, you're in the game. I found his paper and handed it to him. He stared at his phone in his hand for a minute as if it might bite him. I took it and flipped through my contacts. That's her? He nodded. I pressed the button and handed the phone back to him. He was nervous when he started speaking, but soon seemed to regain his bravado. Yes, you know Emily in Alex's apartment. Yes, Emily is here if you want to ask. He handed me the phone. I put it to my ear and began to listen. Then I started giggling. No, this will not be a sausage festival. How about throwing all those extra sausages out the window? There are only 3 floors here. This should teach them. Okay, see you. Casual wear. I'll be in a t-shirt and shorts. They laughed, and I passed the phone back to Josh. He wrote down some information and hung up. Yahoo! He raised his fist in the air. I got it. Thanks, Emily, for giving me the push. 1 date has taken place. 4 remain. I watched them with interest. They looked more interested now. Okay, guys, you heard me. Spare sausages are thrown out the window. You need a date. Let's go, Michael, you're starting. One by one, they picked up the phone and made an appointment for Friday. I was delighted. My plan worked. I took out the last piece of paper. It was Ryan's turn, my personal favorite. He was shy, the shyest of all. I was worried about him. Since everyone else had been successful, I hoped this would give him courage. He was so different from the others. He loved to read. He loved a variety of music that others did not listen to. Something about him made me want to embrace him in my arms. Somehow, he seemed more like sirloin steak to me than the burgers and beer that everyone else, including Alex, imagined. He had unknown depths that others lacked. How he ended up in this company, I could not understand. However, all the guys seemed to like him. I turned over Ryan's paper and frowned. There was nothing on the back except a question mark. Ryan, there is no girl here. Don't you have a girl you'd like to date? Someone you've always admired from afar and would like to date? He shook his head, but something in his denial made me not believe him. Ryan, you're not telling me the truth. Who is this? Come on, there must be someone. He blushed, clearly embarrassed, shaking his head again. There is no one, Emily, he answered, staring at his shoes. Not the most honest position, as I realized. Why don't I believe you, Ryan? The others started pestering him. Come on, Ryan, we did it. Be a man. Ryan looked completely miserable. I was about to let him go when suddenly he spoke. Can I talk to Alex and ask him for advice? He is married and knows more about women than anyone else present. I need help. I shrugged. It wouldn't hurt to get him moving. Alex and Ryan walked down the hallway to the bedroom. They stayed there for a few minutes, then left. "Ryan is ready to go," Alex announced. Ryan turned to the window and began dialing a number. As soon as he raised the phone to his ear, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Did Alex call? Why would Alex call me if he was standing a few feet away from me? I looked at him. He pressed the phone to his ear and nodded at the ringing phone in my hand. I really wanted to cheer Ryan up, but Alex calling me made me curious. I almost refused the call, but Alex nodded again towards the ringing phone. "Why are you calling me now, Alex?" I answered uncertainly. "Hey, Emily, it's Ryan. My friends are having a game night on Friday, and I was wondering if you would like to come with me." My lungs stopped breathing. It felt like my stomach had dropped into my shoes. I felt faint, my ears buzzing as I listened to Ryan asking me out. For a moment I thought I might pass out from shock, but I came to my senses. "Ryan, you can't ask me out. I'm in a relationship. I asked Alex," I said. "Alex said it didn't matter. You didn't have a ban on this. That's why I'm asking. Would you like to go to the party with me on Friday?" Ears perked up when the other guys realized what was happening. They looked at Alex, who was grinning like a baboon at my discomfort, believing that he was satisfied with what was happening. They began to mock me and Ryan. "Hold her, Ryan. Don't take no for an answer. Your rule, Emily, he can't take no for an answer," one of the guys said. "Come on, Emily, he has the right to do this. It was your idea, don't knock him down," another chimed in. I put the phone down next to me, turning to my boyfriend. "This is wrong, Alex. We're in a relationship. I can't date another man," I said. He chuckled, clearly enjoying my misery. "Why not, Emily? It was your idea. Don't like being hoisted by your own petard? Deal with it," he asks, "and according to your instructions does not take no for an answer." "Alex," I screamed. It did not help. "Sorry, Emily, but I find it funny to see you trapped by your own ideas and rules," he chuckled. This made me angry. I put the phone to my ear again. "Ryan, I'd like to go with you," I said with a cry of triumph. They all stared at Ryan as he raised his hand up. Realizing that everyone was watching, he lowered his hand. "Sorry," he said embarrassedly. "I have a date," he said somewhat unnecessarily. Matthew suddenly spoke. "Just a minute now. We have a spare sausage. Alex doesn't have a date. He can't come." Alex looked awkward now. "Uh-huh," was his answer. "Come on, Alex, man, you need a date." It was Michael who encouraged him. Alex looked at me with a questioning look. "Back to you," I said, smiling sweetly. "Wait until Alex finds out that he's been cut off for the next month to die." "Okay," he said uncertainly. After exchanging Ryan's phone for his own, he looked through his contact list. I realized that he had given Ryan his phone number for me to answer, thinking it was him. Maybe I could go 2 months without because of his vile betrayal. Alex found what he was looking for and hesitated, looking at me as if he wasn't sure if he should do it. It occurred to me that if he was calling a girl from his contacts to ask her out, then that said something about our relationship. Maybe this is the reason for his reluctance. Finally, he dialed the number of the person he was considering and raised the phone to his ear. "Hello, it's me. Look, I need a date at my house on Friday night to watch the game. A lot of people will come. Would you like to come with me?" Alex thought for a moment. No, we don't quarrel. This is the strangest situation. I'll tell you about it tomorrow at work. It couldn't be funnier. You'll laugh. In any case, everyone will be welcome here, including Emily. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Let's have lunch and I'll confess everything." Now I had more information. This was a woman he worked with who knew his voice without even asking. This said a lot, but nothing reassuring. I did not like the casual manner of the invitation to dinner. I was under the impression that this was a normal event. Agreement was also easy. It didn't seem like anyone was too worried about him being there with his girlfriend. When everything was settled, the guys turned on the TV to watch sports channels. Stunned, I walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table, staring out the window. My cool little plan to tame these guys and move on to the next stage of life failed. I knew that Ryan cared about me. I often caught his eyes on me, but that was normal. Guys were constantly staring at me. I didn't think about it. However, it was a big shock to me that he was attracted to me. Then there was a question about Alex and his little brat. I slowly went over the list of girls I knew Alex had worked with. None of them fit the possible list, except for the new one who started working a couple of months ago. Suddenly, a woman's intuition told me that on Friday I would meet her. If so, then it's time for a long heart-to-heart talk with Alex. The voice brought me out of my thoughts. Ryan sat down next to me, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Sorry, Emily. I shouldn't have put you in this position. You don't have to date me. Let's just forget about this idea. I won't come on Friday, and Alex won't need his girlfriend. It got out of control." I looked into his warm brown eyes, noticing the small green and golden sparkles in them. His eyes were truly amazing. He's a very nice guy, I thought, fighting the momentary urge to run my fingers through his curly brown hair. However, everything else did not suffer either. Broad shoulders, muscular chest and arms, tapering to perfect hips and long muscular legs. I could tell from the slight tremor in his voice that he had put a lot of emotion into it. I found it difficult to understand why some other girl had not grabbed onto him. He was such a find. I decided that I had to be completely honest with him. Out of his kindness, he abandoned the plan I was hatching rather than see me get hurt. He put me first, something Alex was not a shining example of. I took his hand in mine and pressed his fingers to my lips, kissing them lightly in appreciation. "Ryan, I like Alex's friends, but I'm glad none of them asked me out. I wouldn't want to date any of them, but if I were single and you asked me out on a date, I would be the happiest girl on the planet." "Do you really think so?" he asked. I saw the confidence growing in his eyes. "Yes," I replied. He pulled me towards him and hugged me. "Thank you for this." "That's not all," I said excitedly, and leaned over to whisper in his ear. He threw his head back, shocked. "Is it true?" he asked. "That's not all," I said, and leaned towards him again, whispering. Finally, I leaned back and looked at him inquisitively. Stunned, disbelieving eyes nodded at me. "Okay, go watch the game." 20 minutes later, I walked down the corridor like a queen. Upon seeing my appearance and the way I was dressed, a stunned Alex's jaw dropped. He muted the TV. Dropping my bag on the floor, I struck a pose in the suddenly silent room. 6 pairs of bulging eyeballs complemented 6 gaping mouths. Throwing aside my cape, I showed them my swimsuit. I bought it for a vacation with Alex, but it covered so little that I was afraid to wear it to the beach. But both Alex and Ryan deserved it for completely different reasons. The hiss of air being drawn in a few minutes told me I won. I liked it. I also didn't miss the fact that suddenly everyone was horny. "What are you doing, Emily?" Alex asked. "You guys were all so heated about rules, but I never made rules about when we could start dating. You just needed it to be a medium. There's $3,600 on the line, and Ryan and I are going to win it. We'll go to the beach this afternoon, and then I'll go home and get changed so he can take me out to dinner and a show I've been wanting to see. Do you remember, Alex, the one you didn't take me to? By the end of tonight, there will be 2 dates. Ryan and I will have a few dates before you start on Friday. Come on, Ryan, let's go too," I said, taking his hand and walking out. Pleased with the growing bedlam behind us, we laughed all the way down the elevator, which was now working for once. I was glad of this. I wouldn't want to go down the stairs in such skimpy clothes. "I have another swimsuit that covers more if you're uncomfortable with it, Ryan." "Are you kidding, Emily? I'll be the proudest guy on the beach with the most beautiful girl. The guys will be green with envy. Don't you dare change anything," he said. How sweet, I thought, still holding his hand. We walked out into the parking lot. He had a very beautiful car, sporty with comfortable leather bucket seats. I was surprised how I had not noticed this before. It was sparkling clean inside and out. I liked that he took care of his things. Best of all, it had a convertible top. After I nodded in agreement, he took it off. I put on my sunglasses and relaxed back in my seat, enjoying the warm sun. He burned tires while driving out of the parking lot. I screamed in pleasure, throwing my fists into the air, and turned to wave goodbye to the 5 pale faces pressed against the window in the apartment above. I knew they would be there. Ryan grinned as he shifted the howling transmission into second gear to hear the tire squeal. "Are they watching?" he asked. "Oh, yes." I leaned back in my seat, pleased with their dramatic departure. Several cars seemed to want to chase us, some revving their engines hoping to challenge Ryan to a race. I wondered if they really expected me to jump out of his car and get into theirs just because it would be faster. Guys, Ryan needed his things for the beach. We arrived at a small, neat bungalow. Jumping out of the car, he promised to return soon. I looked around. It was a decent neighborhood. Small children were playing in their yards on the next street. The roads were clean, the lawns were trimmed, and there were flowers and bushes everywhere. Ryan's house was perfect for this. The lawn was freshly mowed and the house was recently painted. Flowers of all kinds grew in the garden. It didn't look like a bachelor pad. Does he really live with his parents? Although he claims to live with a neighbor, it looked like my parents' house. Looking around, I saw no one and ran out into the street. It was a corner house with a lawn in front and on the sides. I walked down a side street trying to look into the back of the house. Halfway there, I noticed what looked like a pool ladder peeking over the fence and also the top of a gazebo, which screamed jacuzzi. There was also a raised terrace with tables and chairs. As far as I could tell, everything was neatly maintained, and the surrounding fence was freshly painted. I hurried back to the car before anyone noticed me. If Ryan's parents lived there, then seeing me in an almost missing swimsuit would be awkward. I giggled to myself. I wouldn't want to come home like this if Ryan's shocked parents put him under house arrest. Although I suspected I wouldn't have to go far before a hitchhiker showed up. Ryan returned a few minutes later. "Nice place," I nodded towards the house. "Is this your parents' house?" "No, it's mine." "Why have we never met your neighbor?" "He never existed. I didn't want the house to become a party place, so I used that as an excuse." "You probably make good money if you can afford to rent a house alone." "It's not rented, I bought it. I worked and saved. I bought it about 3 years ago at a sale. It was a dump, ruins. The area was overgrown with weeds." "Are you its owner?" I was shocked by the unexpected news. "Who did all this?" "I did. My father helped me a little. He's a retired builder and is always willing to give advice, but mostly it was me. But you have to keep it to yourself. You've seen how these idiots behave, and if I let them in, they'd think it was a central party every night of the week. But I don't want that. This is a quiet area with good neighbors. They appreciate the renovation work I did." "You did a great job, Ryan. You should be proud of yourself. I won't say a word to anyone." I wondered wistfully why Alex wasn't more ambitious. Come to think of it, we should have already bought our own house. My opinion of Ryan increased by about 500%. He had already built a nest. The right woman, I envied it. Alex still wanted to watch sports, go to the bar, and live like there was no tomorrow. Video games were his middle name. For the first time since we had been together for 6 years, I asked myself if I had made a mistake, married the wrong man. Back then, I expected him to outgrow some of his habits, but now that I thought about it, it turned out that this had not happened. Today, he still acted the same way he did when I first met him. I finally realized what the problem was. Alex was immature. That and the unknown woman encouraging Ryan to ask me out and pushing me to do so gave the day a more sinister tone than I had initially thought. Suddenly, my matrimonial radar flickered into the danger zone. Was Alex unhappy in our relationship? In the light of today, it seemed like a perfectly reasonable question. Arriving at the beach, I pushed all these negative thoughts aside. It was time for fun. We laid out a blanket and an umbrella. I looked around, realizing that many were looking at me. Smiling at Ryan, I quickly opened the cape and threw it onto the blanket. The reaction of others was priceless. The swimsuit was a success. Hand in hand, we went down to the water. Splashing each other turned into a water game and then a dipping competition. I did nothing but try to keep the swimsuit covering my charms. Finally, fearing for my reputation, I yanked Ryan's shorts off, ending up in waist-deep water. I rushed to the blanket before he could come to his senses. We returned to the blanket, me barely ahead of him, laughing and exchanging barbs about the race. Ryan accused me of cheating. I accused him of trying to take away what little I had, an accusation he brushed aside. After all, he was a guy. What did I expect? Still laughing, we stretched out on the blanket, enjoying the sunshine. A few minutes later, Ryan stated that he needed sunscreen and asked me if I wanted to use it. I shouldn't have. I knew it was a no-no, and yet I fell. You could apply it to any place that is not covered, I told him. It was amazing how carefully and diligently he did it. When I woke up, I heard a pair of seagulls floating in the wind overhead, arguing noisily about something. My eyes went wide when I realized that what looked like a baseball bat was lightly rubbing against my fifth place. Considering my swimsuit was nothing more than dental floss at this point, he was making some progress. Ryan held me close, wrapping his arms around me. Listening to his breathing, I realized that he was dozing, but despite this, in his sleep he rubbed against me. No man had ever penetrated there. It was inaccessible. To make matters worse, the up and down movements caused his trunks to slide down. Moving away carefully, not wanting to wake him or embarrass him, I rolled onto my back, intending to pull his swim trunks back on. My fingers were just stretching the fabric when he opened his eyes and saw that I was holding him by his lowered swimming trunks. "All you had to do was ask, Emily. I would tell you that I don't do this on the first date," he teased me, grinning that he caught me in an awkward situation. I immediately attacked him in response. "You should have let the police arrest you, you pervert, trying to shove that thing up in my sleep. Then you would be kind to me. Maybe thank you, Emily, for taking care of me and keeping me out of jail for indecent exposure." They giggled at each other. I finished pulling his trunks up, snapping the elastic waistband over his bare skin, letting him know who was boss. "Would you guys like to join us and play volleyball?" The speaker was a young guy from a group nearby. They were just installing the net. Ryan and I looked at each other and shrugged. "Why not? Great. See you in a couple of minutes." He went back. "You know, they just want to see how I'll jump in this swimsuit. I'll have it hanging out everywhere." They looked a little disappointed when I showed up wearing a t-shirt and shorts over the swimsuit to cover my butt. The day passed very happily, and before I had time to look back, we were already driving home. Ryan dropped me off and promised to pick me up at 6 o'clock for dinner and then go to the show. The guys were no longer upstairs, and Alex sat and looked out the window. I was still very angry and walked past him into the bedroom. After undressing, I climbed into the shower to wash off the sand. "Did you have fun with him?" That was the first thing I heard when I got out of the shower. "Don't be an ass," I chided him angrily. "Of course not, and don't come at me. You are the one who abandoned me today." "I did, didn't I?" he admitted. "I thought it was funny, Emily. I just took advantage of what I thought was a funny situation." "What's the matter, Alex? Don't you want to be in a relationship anymore?" I expected his furious denial. This was not what I got. "I've been having thoughts lately, Emily. What happened today seemed to crystallize them. We want completely different things. You want to settle down, buy a house, and have children. But not me. I like to hang out with friends, go to the bar, get drunk, and watch sports. I like to play video games. I don't need this place to be spotless all the time. This isn't quite the right way to put it, but you're like my mother. You always grumble that you need to do better, clean up. It will never end." I was shocked by his answer, although now that I thought about it after today, I shouldn't have been. My relationship was crumbling right before my eyes. "So what's your relationship with that bimbo who's coming on Friday night? I need to know what this girl meant to you." "Don't call her that. She's a good person, just not very bright. She will perceive this as a fun evening and will not even occur to her that there could be problems behind this. If she hadn't been rude to her, she wouldn't have been able to handle it. She likes the same things I like. She's too young to settle down and she knows it. She just wants to have a good time. We talk a lot at work. There was nothing else. Why didn't I know this about you before? 4 years. You said completely different things when you wanted to get together. I thought this is what I want, but living this life knowing that it would only get worse, I changed my mind." My eyes threatened to overflow with tears. However, I was obligated to keep my date with Ryan. "I need to get ready. We can talk about this later maybe, but I don't know what time I'll be home. After your little performance this afternoon, I called her and agreed to meet her at the bar this evening. The rest of the guys will be there too. If we get too drunk, I might end up staying with one of them or hers. I wouldn't do that to you, Emily." "I need to get ready, Alex," I said dryly. and ignoring him, turned back to the mirror. I heard the bedroom door close quietly, and then the front door. He disappeared. I grabbed a napkin from the counter and wiped my eyes. After crying for several minutes because of my boyfriend's refusal, I finally decided to forget about the pain he caused. Walking over to my closet, I checked my outfits. Remembering our conversation, I made a decision, taking off a rarely worn dress. It was time for the man killer. This was such an outfit that it would have Ryan salivating all evening. No bra, no panties, endless cleavage from throat to navel, with a single loop on the middle button. It was the only thing that kept it closed, hiding all its charms from prying eyes. I added stiletto heels to make my legs look their best. I'd worn it on our anniversary, but today it was for Ryan. Adjusting my makeup and combing my hair, I looked in the mirror with satisfaction. Ryan won't understand what hit him. The phone chirped, letting me know he was there outside. He nearly fell while trying to open the door for me. I gently closed my finger over his gaping mouth and kissed his cheek. God, he made me feel good after talking to Alex. "Emily, you are the most beautiful woman in the world." "Thank you, Ryan. You look damn attractive yourself." And he sure did. Dressed in a sports jacket, trousers, dress shoes, and a tie, he was a very handsome man. Looking into his brown eyes with gold and green veins, I shuddered. I realized that if it were a real date and I were single, I wouldn't have to wait until the third date to sleep with him. Feeling rejected, I would have to be careful today. It would be too easy to give in and regain my self-esteem. He helped me into the car, unable to take his eyes off my feet, much to my delight. In the restaurant, the head waiter almost clicked his tongue, immediately paying attention to us. He led us through several tables, and I enjoyed all the looks. There would be quite a few boyfriends in the kennel tonight, paying significant expenses for "maybe we'll have some fun when we get home" had just failed for many of them. The dinner turned out to be delicious and exciting. Ryan and I exchanged many more stories about our lives. It turned out that he had bought a second house, had just completed renovations, and was renting it out. Ryan was determined to continue buying, renovating, and building wealth. We talked about hobbies. He talked about his love of reading, music, and cinema, things I also loved. However, when I asked if he had anything else, he looked away and said no. He just lied to me. This made me wonder why. It seemed like such a harmless question to dodge. Arriving at the cinema, we stocked up on popcorn, drinks, and candy. Ryan reserved a special place for the lovers, allowing us both to sit together. I was about to sit next to him when he pointed me to the corner and lifted my legs onto the sofa. To my surprise, he took off my high heels and began massaging my aching feet. Those shoes made my feet look great, but after a while, walking in them was a pain. A moment later, I was already with pleasure as his strong fingers dug into the sore muscles and soothed them. For the second time today, I was captured by his strong hands, which brought so much pleasure. Should I stop him? I should have, but didn't. The movie started, saving me before he got too high. Retracting my legs, I cuddled up to him as we shared popcorn and drinks. I liked the film. At the decisive moment, a tearful cry escaped me, giving vent to part of my irritation at my boyfriend's chauvinistic behavior. Watching Ryan out of the corner of my eye as he consoled me, I noticed that a drop of moisture was also running down his cheek. He cried at a chick flick. This made an impression on me. The other guys despised chick flicks as if they'd book a cruise on the Titanic before watching it. I wiped away a tear with my finger and then kissed him on the cheek as a sign of gratitude. His support made me feel good about the shock Alex had given me today. As we left the cinema, we talked about the film. I was surprised to find that Ryan had watched the movie to the end. He spoke intelligently about what happened. We agreed that one scene was too fake to be believable. However, overall, we both liked the film. The best thing I ever got from Alex when he took me to a chick flick was, "Is it true?" He didn't feel like watching. He simply suffered, often watching sports programs on headphones with the screen muted. I began to replay my friends in my head. How Ryan managed to avoid a serious relationship amazed me. He was just a godsend. The trouble was that I could not find a single woman who would appreciate him even approximately as much as I did. My mind suddenly took a big step back to glare at Ryan. Why did I decide that only I find him so attractive and seductive, as if all the women I knew weren't good enough for him? Maybe I missed something. We were friends for some time, or was I a friend? And he was carrying the torch for me. Was there something more between us? Dating while in a relationship seemed wrong, but the truth was that I was enjoying myself immensely. I wasn't going to blame myself. It was Alex and his idiocy that pushed Ryan to invite me. Unfortunately, the only reason I thought about Alex tonight was to compare his failures to Ryan's. In the car, listening to the hypnotic hum of the engine, Ryan pulled me out of my thoughts when he hesitantly asked, "Do you want to come and see my house? Maybe we can have a drink?" I shouldn't. It was dangerous to go home with him, but I was curious to see his house. Curiosity won. As we drove through the moonlit streets, doubts haunted me. It was madness. I was exposing myself to temptation. I was attracted to him to such an extent that I admitted to myself that I would sleep with him tonight if I were lonely. I looked at his face, alternately flashing white and dark as the moonlight filtered through the branches of the trees overhead and then hit him in the shadows. About to pull into his driveway, I looked at all his improvements. This place was a palace. The polished wooden floors gleamed. Everything was modern and with the latest technology. His tastes were masculine. I swore I'd change that as soon as I moved in. Then I gasped again. Where did these thoughts come from? He led me through the house, ignoring one bedroom. "What's there?" I asked. "Ah, just a storage room," he replied, his eyes flickering again. I looked at the door curiously. There was something behind it he didn't want me to see. The possibilities were endless, but his previous lies were about his hobbies. Clearly, he had something he didn't want to share. I made a pact with myself. I would tease or pry it out of him, even if I had to. No, I stopped right there. This was not the solution. This is the path to destruction and separation. The backyard was beautiful. Ryan had built a pool, hot tub, and a huge deck with a barbecue for entertaining. There was a glass-enclosed extension at the back of the house, but he didn't show it. Maybe he made a solarium. More and more curious, I thought. It was closed with blinds. I couldn't look inside. Returning to the house, Ryan brought the drinks and began to settle into the chair until I patted the couch next to me. We sipped and talked until the drinks were finished. Ryan took my glass and placed it on the table next to him. I was about to say that it was time to take me home when he spoke. "Emily, I can't kiss you goodbye in front of your apartment." "I'll kiss you now," he said, leaving no doubt that he was going to do just that. He was a good kisser, I decided, although I didn't have much choice. He pulled me closer as he made his dramatic statement, capturing my lips before I could answer him. Not that I minded. Besides, a kiss after a second date was only natural, I told myself. The problem was that he didn't stop, and I was enjoying it so much that I didn't care. Excitement flared within me. I got lost in the kiss. I could do this with him forever. He smelled so good. With some shock, I realized that my wandering fingers had managed to catch the loop on that single button and unfasten it. His hand parted the top of my dress and cupped my breast. I must stop him. I couldn't seem to pull myself together. On the second date, they were supposed to fool around a little. His free hand moved down. "Wait, Ryan," I said with difficulty, pronouncing his name. "We need to stop." "Fine." To my amazement, he immediately stopped. "Sit down." He pulled my dress off, throwing a small loop over the button. Guys didn't do that often. I had to fight them off once they got going and got me this far. We had told so many stories about guys who wouldn't take no for an answer. He kissed me lightly on the lips. "I'll take you home." My opinion of him increased by another 5,000%. Returning to my apartment, he turned off the engine and turned to me. "Are we going to do anything tomorrow?" "Damn right," I answered him. "I want to win this money." "What's on your mind?" "Dinner and dancing tomorrow night. I know a great place, but tomorrow the day will be awkward. You might not want to come with me." "Is it true? Why?" I used to go to dinner with my parents on Sundays until we started spending game day at your place. I wanted to do this instead. As a compromise, I scheduled Mondays for lunch with them. I told my mom a little about you and what happened. She laughed and seemed to think it was funny. She wants to meet you and asked if you would like to come, but I know it might be awkward for you. Wow, boy, awkward is putting it mildly. Meeting with your parents is like a board meeting to approve a new tenant, and so soon, it sucks. Still, I wanted to hit the jackpot. Working from home will help me find time. The decision swirled around in my head for a long time until I made up my mind. Okay, let's meet your parents. If anything, I'm curious to know where you came from. I kissed him on the cheek. Bye then. Talk to you tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 11. Ryan leaned back in his chair and watched as my gorgeous figure sank into the lobby. He needed to have his head examined. Why the hell was he dating a woman in a relationship, he asked himself. It couldn't lead anywhere. He was emotionally torn apart by wanting me. I had been his secret crush since the day he met me. For a moment, he regretted taking Alex's advice and getting them into this situation. There was nowhere to go, but he couldn't bring himself to leave me. As I disappeared into the elevator, he turned and stared at the moon through the windshield. The situation seemed so hopeless. He sat and meditated, watching a long, thin, dark cloud pass over a glowing ball in the sky. Somehow he associated this cloud with my relationship. No matter how brightly I shone for him, my relationship overshadowed his desire. The dazzling relationship we could have had dimmed like moonlight. A tear involuntarily ran down his cheek. Upstairs, I washed my face. Throwing on the long t-shirt I usually wore to bed, I walked to the window to see if Alex's car was back yet. We needed to talk. I frowned when I noticed Ryan's car still parked downstairs. He didn't seem to be on the phone. I watched him for a while, becoming concerned when he stopped moving. Ryan winced as the passenger door opened and I climbed in. Inside, he saw my t-shirt and robe hanging loosely from my shoulders. God. Then he noticed my quirky little bunny ear slippers and burst out laughing. What? He pointed to my slippers, still laughing. I slapped his arm. Don't you dare make fun of my slippers. Warm feet are happy feet, and happy legs mean a happy woman. Just wait until I press my cold feet to your back so that they will warm up when we are in the bed together. My brain grasped the importance of the fateful statement that came from my lips. I blushed. Ryan tried to keep a straight face, but then we both burst into laughter. Why are you still here, Ryan? I asked a few minutes later, when we could look at each other without hysterics. I asked myself, why am I putting you, Alex, and myself in this situation by dating you? This is so wrong. This will get us nowhere, he said, sounding torn. I thought about it. After Alex's message this afternoon, I didn't have much hope for our relationship. But on the other hand, I did not want to break up because of one stupid statement. Maybe Alex will regret it and apologize, or maybe not. I suspected that Alex was telling the truth about his feelings, but I shouldn't have given Ryan false hope by making him think my relationship was on the rocks. But I must admit, once we started dating, I didn't want to stop. I pulled him towards me and gave him a searing kiss. Sometimes, Ryan, we are closer to our goals than we think. With this ambiguous statement, I got out of the car and headed home again. Ryan laughed again at those bunny ears fluttering around as I walked into the house. As if she had read his thoughts, I turned and pointed at my slippers, wagging my finger at him as a no-no. Don't insult my favorite slippers, I warned. He tried not to laugh at the funny sight. Upstairs, I looked out the window again. Ryan had left and there was no sign of Alex yet. I poured myself a glass of wine and curled up on the sofa. The future that Alex had given up was non-negotiable in my books. Children, buying a house, all this was a typical development of a relationship. Children were high on my list of priorities. If Alex had stated this at the very beginning, we would never have made it to this point. We had dated for 2 years and were together for 6 years. Had I wasted all these years on the wrong man? Thinking about Ryan, I wondered if he was just attempting consolation for the hurt Alex had caused me. But when I thought about it, I realized that we had both been drawn to each other ever since he came into our lives about 3 years ago. In the last couple of years, this process had only intensified. When the group went camping, he and I always seemed to walk together, talking as we watched the game. I seemed to be sitting next to him. He was the one who regularly got up to help me bring snacks or beer. He helped with cleanup after games or volunteered to do small errands while packing for parties. When we went to bars, I almost always sat next to him, talking and watching the others joke. In fact, I realized in all the time we had been together at the bar, I had never seen him drunk. The others swigged their beers as if their goal was to get drunk and act like idiots. Ryan sipped his beer and rarely exceeded 2 glasses. 3 seemed to be his absolute limit. If I was cooking in the kitchen, Ryan would sit at the table and talk to me. He readily jumped up to take dishes out of the cupboard, crush potatoes, or provide any other help I needed. After thinking about his sensitivity compared to others and the things he liked, I had to admit that the two of us had a lot more interests in common than Alex and I did, or anyone else for that matter. It wasn't a rebound. Ryan was by my side the whole time. I looked out the window again. There was still no sign of Alex returning home. Angry, I texted him, "We need to talk." Usually I received quick answers, but as time passed, the silence on the phone seemed deafening. The phone beeped, notifying me that Ryan was outside. I checked my eyes one last time in the mirror. They looked better now. Alex didn't come home or answer me last night, and I cried for half the night before deciding he wasn't worth it anymore. A feeling of bitterness arose in my soul, which pushed me away from him. I spent the morning agonizing over what clothes to wear to meet Ryan's parents, bathing my eyes in cool water with cucumber slices to reduce the puffiness and bags underneath. On the way to his parents' house, I felt uneasy when I realized that they were going to an upscale area of the city. Ryan drove until he pulled into a gated driveway and clicked the remote. I was stunned. I knew this place like many other people in the area. I had driven past the mansion many times, admiring it and dreaming of one day being successful enough to own something like it. We drove down the long driveway until Ryan parked under a canopy. I looked around. God, this place was worth millions. I didn't expect this. Inside, I was introduced to his parents, Barbara and Victor. "Let's go, Emily. Let's go to the kitchen. I'll bring us a glass of wine. The boys have some plans," Barbara said, leading me through the house. When my eyes caught something familiar, I exclaimed, "My God, is this a reproduction?" "No, this is the original," Ryan's mother replied. Several years ago, I was at an art exhibition and was mesmerized by this painting. The $50,000 price tag on it was only $49,000 more than I could afford. Still, I hoped that someday I would be able to splurge on it. His parents must be very rich to be able to spend that kind of money on one painting. "Do you mind?" I asked, wanting to admire the picture again. "Of course not, dear. This is what art is for. Enjoy, watch as much as you want," Barbara replied. Several years ago, I was at an art exhibition and was completely delighted with this painting. True, I couldn't afford it, I admitted to Barbara. Looking around, I saw many paintings signed by the same artist. Then it dawned on me. Her name was Barbara, and Ryan's last name was Evans. All paintings were painted by Barbara Evans, Ryan's mom. I turned in stunned amazement. "Oh my God, you are Barbara Evans, the world-famous artist." "Well, I don't know about world fame, honey. I just draw. And if people like it, I don't hold it against them if they live somewhere else." Barbara shrugged, then looked surprised. "I take it Ryan didn't tell you anything about us? Typical. But this boy is so determined to succeed on his own without people giving him what they would if they knew who his parents were. I have to admire that." On the other wall, I noticed another painting. It was completely different in style from Barbara's paintings. The colors were rich and vibrant, and although I didn't know much about art, the artist's talent shone like a beacon. "Oh my God, this picture is beautiful too," I exclaimed. "Yes, it is. Do you like it?" Barbara asked. I nodded, studying the picture. "This is incredible. Come with me, Emily. It looks like you have a taste for good art." We have a room in which we keep the best paintings. There is another painting by this artist that Victor and I consider very special. I think you'll like it." They walked down the spiral staircase and stopped in front of a steel door. Barbara entered the code into the lock. "Give me a minute, Emily. I need to adjust the lighting." "Don't peek in advance," she laughed. I took a moment to look around the basement. It was beautifully decorated and equipped with a sports bar and large-screen TV. The room was decorated with comfortable chairs and bar stools. Behind the bar was a collection of liquor that rivaled any bar I had ever been to. Barbara slipped out of the room. "Okay, Emily," she said as she pushed the door. Her portrait hanging on the opposite wall flickered, reflecting the light of the spotlights that emphasized her appearance. Stunned, I stumbled into the room and fell to my knees, pressing my hands to my cheeks. Shocked eyes stared at the magnificent picture. No one needed to explain who this artist was. "Ryan," I whispered, overcome with emotion. I remembered this moment well. Our small group went on a hike. There was a hill along the path adjacent to a vast, gently sloping meadow filled with colorful flowers. Josh, Michael, and Jacob spent the entire hike throwing barbs at each other. Michael jumped on Jacob's back, and then Josh knocked them both down. I, Alex, Ryan, and Matthew watched with laughter as the three of them rolled down the hill, crushing flowers and imitating a fight. I was amazed that no one was stung by the horde of very angry bees which they interrupted by buzzing angrily at the playful fighters. It was a wonderful day, and my participation in these fun moments was now captured on canvas. I didn't know that Ryan had taken the photo. He captured me from a 3-4 angle, laughing happily at the playful trio and their silly antics. The day was sunny. A light breeze ruffled my hair, removing it from my face. Soon after, we spotted a bear crossing a meadow, her 2 cubs frolicking among the flowers, snarling at the angry bees every now and then. Not wanting to get into a confrontation, we quietly left, turning back and taking a different route to avoid the bear. It was an amazing picture. What is even more important for me is that in every stroke of the artist's brush, his love for his muse was evident. Understanding dawned on me. Ryan loved me, and these feelings burned in his masterpiece. His name sounded on my lips again, and tears ran down my cheeks. I heard rustling footsteps and looked over my shoulder. Ryan and his father stood in the doorway. Ryan's uncertain eyes widened with the realization that his secret feelings for me had been exposed, and he had no idea how I felt. I didn't remember how I stood up or crossed the distance between us. All I knew was that he was holding me in his loving arms. My lips found his, and the outside world ceased to exist. We returned to the ground, our eyes flickering back and forth, looking intently into each other's eyes, searching for the truth in them. The intertwining of our hearts spoke for itself. With a groan, I buried my face in the crook of his throat and lovingly buried my nose under his chin. It took me a few seconds before I realized there were tears streaming down his cheeks. I wiped them away with my finger and kissed him tenderly. "Ryan," I sighed. How could I not notice my true feelings for him for so long? He loved me. Kissing down his jawline to his ears, I shared my heart with him. "I love you too." With an ecstatic sigh, he hugged me tighter. I heard quiet voices, his parents embarrassed. I turned to apologize. "I'm very sorry," I apologized to his parents, pretending to be busy discussing my painting. Barbara turned and smiled at me. "Don't be so sorry, Emily. This is one of the most sincere moments I have ever seen in my life. I think I speak for both of us that we are lucky our boy was a part of it." His father nodded in agreement. "Why don't we go have lunch?" Barbara suggested. Over lunch, I talked about the dating situation, especially the fact that Alex had just dumped me. Wanting Ryan to know the truth, I said that Alex had suddenly abandoned all the decisions we had discussed when we were first dating and getting together, that he wanted to leave to be free, to have fun, drink, make a mess, and play video games without the supervision of Mom. I still felt insulted by the use of the term. His immature behavior made me decide not to stay with him unless I had children and bought a house in the future. Judging by his refusal to come and discuss the situation, I suspected that separation was the only solution. I also explained my sudden realization that Ryan and I had been gradually growing closer over the past few years. I just didn't realize it. After that, I decided that lunch had gone well. Ryan's parents seemed supportive. As I explained how events unfolded surrounding their son dating a woman in a relationship, Barbara even expressed hope that things would work out between me and Ryan. I was invited to return with Ryan at any time. We held hands the entire way back. Alex's car was in the parking lot when he dropped me off. "Do you want me to get up?" I asked. "No, it will be better if we settle everything with him." "Okay, I'll pick you up at 7. He'll be ready." Going upstairs, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat down in the living room. Alex was sitting there with a beer. "I see you finally returned home," I said. "Sorry about that. This was bad behavior on my part. I shouldn't have done this. After your little lecture the other day, I don't see that there's anything left between us. What you said makes no sense in any relationship I have, and frankly, if you had said those thoughts in the first place, we would never have made it to this point." "I know, Emily. I started having these thoughts a couple of years ago when I finally noticed how much you and Ryan were into each other. At first I was jealous, but you didn't seem to notice what was happening. Of course, you didn't cheat with him. I didn't even notice any signs that you were unhappy. It made me stop and think about it in a different way. Was I happy? Were we in harmony with our desires in life? My answer was no, but I realized that it would be a big yes for you and Ryan if you ever allowed yourself to be with him. I didn't miss the way he looks at you, and I know he's crazy about you. I knew you wouldn't be happy if I expressed my new feelings, so when he came to me with his dating dilemma, I deliberately pushed him towards you." "Were you jealous? Why didn't you say anything, Alex? I never set out to make you jealous." "I knew it disappeared when I realized that you didn't even realize how you ended up together all the time. Do you know that you touch each other like lovers without even realizing it?" "What? How could I miss something so personal?" "Yes, small touches on the arm, back, legs when you sit together. At times, you both are completely oblivious to the others. One day you reached into the back pocket of his shorts and pulled them closer while the two of you looked at something. Another time you ran your fingers through the hair at the back of his head." "What?" I was amazed. I didn't remember doing this. "Yes, everyone else noticed. That's why bringing you and Ryan together was a smart decision, Emily. You would never accept my changes, and I must admit I don't want to remain as I am. It's just not me. We need to move on." Wow, much more than I expected. The part about Ryan shocked me. I had already realized that we were circling each other, but obviously things had gone much further than I thought. Our body language, the way we unconsciously touched each other, spoke volumes. "I'm shocked, Alex. I never intended to do anything with Ryan, and I certainly didn't want to humiliate or diminish your importance. I didn't even imagine that I was doing such things. Listen, the guys are all excited about Friday night. I want to keep everything a secret until the end. Let them have fun and maybe come away with a new relationship. We can do it, of course. I want the same for them. What about your little office, sweetie?" He looked embarrassed. "I really like her, and in the future she's perfect for me, considering the state of my mind right now. And in the future, who knows? Please be kinder to her." I needed to leave before the tears came. No matter what the future held, I loved Alex. Maybe not as much as I thought at first. "Okay, Alex, let's talk about this after Friday and agree on a separation. Now I have to go get ready to meet Ryan. We are going to walk." "Me too. Hey, we're only one date behind you. You better hurry." I lost my enthusiasm for the bet. The guys can share it. I don't care anymore. Even though I had to nurse my red eyes again from crying, I was radiantly happy that night at dinner with Ryan. We danced and had fun all night. For the first time, I realized that as crazy as it all seemed, I belonged in Ryan's arms. When the evening ended, applause rang out from the audience. Ryan and I looked back and realized that the music had ended, leaving us standing in the middle of the empty dance floor, completely lost in a heated kiss. At first I thought they were clapping for the group, but then I realized that everyone was looking at us and clapping. Following this, several wolf whistles were heard. Now that was a little awkward. We went back to Ryan's for a nightcap. Walking through the door, I took Ryan's hand and led him to the bedroom he had refused to show me earlier, the one with the outer glass part. I had a good idea of what I would find there. "Open it," I demanded. Of course. What was inside was exactly what I expected to see. Ryan had built himself a studio, adding a glass extension to improve the lighting. There were several portraits of me taken during various events in which we both took part. The most amazing thing is that his love for me was evident in all these paintings. He was a talented artist like his mother and was inspired by his secret love. I wanted nothing more than to get him into bed and stay the night. But Alex and I had an agreement. Nothing will happen until we break up and one of us moves out. We hugged each other on the couch and kissed lightly before deciding it was getting too hot and heavy. We needed to stop while we can. Friday night was not well thought out. The addition of extra girls had exceeded the number of available places. Luckily, no one objected to sitting on their partner's lap. I was sitting on Ryan's lap, and Alex was holding his little Ashley on his lap. As much as I was ready to be angry with her, I found that I enjoyed his date. Alex warned me that his colleague was not very smart. This became obvious when I got the chance to talk to her in the kitchen. However, she was cheerful and so happy to meet them all. But looking at her face as she buried herself in Alex's arms, there was no doubt that she was crazy about him, and he had nothing but adoring eyes for her. Despite the sadness that our relationship was over, I couldn't help but admit that everything was working out for the best for everyone. The evening went well and ended with Sunday dates for all the guys. Things were looking up. Their behavior with the women around them had definitely improved. Alex left to take Ashley home, and I kissed Ryan goodbye at the door. I began to get ready for bed, surprised that Alex had not returned yet. When I got up at 3:30 to go to the toilet, he still had not returned. I woke up at 7 o'clock to find Alex there, sprawled on his side, completely drunk. A cloud of alcohol fumes hung over his head. His shirt was removed and his pants pulled down to his knees before he lost consciousness. I shook my head, then took off his boots and the rest of his clothes, including his boxers. I stared at his groin in shock. I wondered if I had overdone it. It all started when I taped several of his hairy body parts to the bed. As my anger grew, so did the amount of tape until Alex was an almost faceless lump under the gray film. I pulled the tape all the way to the wooden sides of the mattress. Without outside help and long, painful hair pulling, he could not get out. His head was taped to the pillow, the crowning achievement of my revenge being the wedding ring glued to the top of his dignity. A single, solitary diamond towered above everything else, glinting in the light. His bladder was going to be in serious pain when he woke up from the beer he drank last night. I hoped it would really, really hurt. When I finished, I took his phone and took a video of my revenge. Collecting all his contacts into one message, I sent the video to everyone he knew with the title, "He Cheated." Ryan called me a few minutes later. He picked me up and took me home, and I had to pack my suitcase. I decided that I would wait a few hours and then text Ashley about the location of the apartment key. She would be able to come and save her lover. The moon was a bright ball in the sky, moonlight streaming through the bedroom window when Ryan screamed and jumped off the bed, his bare feet slamming loudly on the floor. "Oh my God, did you put those feet in the freezer before you went to bed?" he exclaimed. Giggling, I rolled over and wrapped myself in the warm blankets, my belly rapidly swelling. There's no way in hell my new boyfriend will ever insult my favorite slippers with bunny ears again. All that remains is to teach him to do this fantastic foot massage every evening without asking. I sighed. It took so much work to train my partner. However, warm, happy, well-massaged feet meant a happy woman, and a happy woman meant a happy life. He will learn. Thank you for tuning in to our latest story. We hope you enjoyed the drama and unexpected twists as much as we did. What would you have done if you were in Emily's shoes? Do you think she handled the situation the right way? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for more jaw-dropping tales. Until next time, keep sharing your stories with us.